On a scale from 1 to 10, my friend, you're fucked.
Every Percy Jackson fan that is still excited and not enraged about these leaks, please go reevaluate yourself.
There were 4 scenes exactly from dailies, which are just, this is everything we shot today, that were released. And people were all over them because of the content of the scenes. It's like, from my understanding, because Shannon and I were like super careful, let's not try to find any of these spoilers ourselves. We slipped on stuff still. It was like, oh, I happened to find the 4 lines that everybody is stuck on with these scenes. And like I saw one screenshot. I know Shannon's accidentally run into the clips and had to scroll away super quickly. But it's interesting. There's like almost a division within the Percy Jackson fandom when you talk about this, because Threads is where Becky Riordan tends to hang out. And so the Threads people are all, like this leak really sucks. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. But you go on Twitter and it is a cesspool. It is people saying, we didn't sign an NDA with Disney, and like, well, it's not our fault. Why are you blaming us, Becky? Like,
Oh
and
my goodness.
yeah, it's very much, it gives teenager energy, and I always hate guessing people's ages when stuff like this comes up, because then they rest on the fact that they don't have a real profile picture, and it's like, well, I'm a teenager, no, I'm an adult, depending on what they're getting in trouble for.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna assume they're teenagers. But a lot of them, it was like not really understanding that spreading a leak is pretty much as bad as being the person who initially did the leak, because you're still putting it out there.
Well, and like I just need to like make it extremely obvious for people who might not know. Dailies are never supposed to be seen by anybody outside of if it's your job to either do special effects or editing. Other
Mhm.
people who even work on the show would not see this. Like this is like literally work product that is like supposed to be protected. That is confidential material. That is things that you're only supposed to ever see if you actually work for them, if you
Mhm.
work for the production. This is not like a trailer leaking early or like chapters from a book that is going to coming out soon. This is a really big deal because what are you doing? Like that's why I was like this is wild that like last week they posted like the casting calls for one of the new characters for season 3. Even though that sucked, that was also something that I've seen a lot before of people finding things like that and posting it because it's out there for people to find if they know where to look. This was in some way stolen because there is no possible way that they would ever have access to the dailies for this show. There is no way. There's no website that you could log on to in the way that you could find like the casting calls for Nico D'Angelo and post them on Twitter. There's no way they could find this anywhere. I don't know how they got a hold of it. Disney is going to figure that out and like pray for those people once they figure out how they did it. I don't know if it was somebody from the crew who like gave it to fans not realizing. I don't know if it's like fans who know about tech savvy things and figured out how to like basically send like a phishing email where you click on the link and get somebody's like login information, and they did that with like somebody who's an editor or something so that they could get in there and take the dailies for the scenes that they wanted to see, because it was all scenes with Percy and Annabeth, things that the fans would want to see. And that is why it is like out of this world that not only did somebody find out a way to have access to those things when there's no way for a fan to actually just like fall and trip over and find those things, it's also that they posted it on Twitter and they posted it on TikTok. They just posted them. And so now like videos that I'm seeing on TikTok are people, they're just showing up. There's like no warning that it's there. And I know what they are because I know that it happened. And so I immediately like scroll away before I actually see anything more than like 2 seconds long. But that is like wild. And we can like we can explain like why they did that, like why that person did that. It honestly makes sense when you know how fandoms work, and like kind of like this the like pecking order of things in fandoms and what that person was trying to do. But like those things are never supposed to be seen by anyone ever. Like that person could actually get in trouble. And I know that they don't understand that, and they really should, because when I was a teenager and I was in fandom, I knew not to do that. We knew how dangerous that kind of thing was. You understand even when you're a teenager that what you're doing isn't right. They just are feeling like defined enough that they don't care, and they're not thinking about what they're doing. Like the person who posted them, their account immediately got completely banned. And like every single video that I see somebody using the clips in, because some people have already started editing, making edits of these scenes, or just like posting them again, I'm like, all of your accounts are going to be gone. Like Disney is going to find them and just delete them for having stolen like copywritten material. Like the show doesn't come out until December, and you're posting scenes from that they haven't even finished working on yet. That's wild to do that and then be so like blatant about it and not apologize and then blame the production.
I'm willing to bet that it was not fans. And the reason I say that is that there is a huge, especially tabloid, and not even like actual traditional tabloids, although it's rooted in that, but there's a huge money-making industry of leaks. Leaking anything, especially behind the scenes stuff. And the reason I say that I don't think it's a fan because of that, but also because we just had the exact same thing or a similar thing happen with Marvel. Because right now they're filming Doomsday, and footage from the set of costumes and characters just got leaked. And the rumor that I heard was somebody jumped a fence, blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing, like, the reason those got dropped on TikTok and Twitter is because you can monetize those platforms. And so it doesn't matter. Like, fans definitely pick up on it because, like, our attention is what those people are making money off of. So that's why they're going and grabbing this information, and also why they're putting it out there on these social media platforms, because they know fans are going to be curious and want to click on it and see it and share it. And but especially when it comes to Twitter right now is a cesspool because that's the only thing that it's there for, is to stir up engagement so that people can make money. And a terrible aspect of TikTok too is that there's a lot of that as well. And the sad thing, like you said, is like there are fans who don't understand how this in many ways is ruining the experience for them, in the sense of that those dailies are rough drafts. And so they're not getting to see the final product that's being very carefully made for them so they can enjoy it. And especially like using it for things like fan edits and stuff is like, that's great. That's you getting to imagine and stuff. But it also will have negative effects, like you said, on people working on the project. It may change things, like stuff like the leaks like this have caused like the only thing I can think of in my brain right now is like Midnight Sun, the Twilight fandom. Like, she had sent like the first couple chapters of that to a friend who leaked it online, and that gave her writer's block on that for years.
Listening to you talk literally made me want to kill myself sometimes.
Becky Riordan posted some things talking about the things that were posted that were Percy Jackson, these dailies, and she deleted them. And so I don't want to be like specific about what she said. She deleted them for a reason. And so I'm not going to be the one to like regurgitate these things that she doesn't want on the internet anymore. But the gist of what she was saying in those was that that it wouldn't be challenging for them to find the person, that if those were given to somebody from someone in production, it wouldn't be hard for Disney to figure out who it was. They're about to go into production for they're doing production for season 3. It's going to officially start filming at the end of July.
Yeah, we're like in
And
pre-production.
yeah, like they're like boot camp they call it for the month of July, when all of the kids and all the cast, but it's all the kids, they all go and like get ready for the season for a month before they start filming. They're all going to be up there the beginning of July. And so they have to figure out who it is right now. Because if it is somebody who is doing that, they have to figure out a way for this never to happen ever again. And so it's like that person could possibly lose their entire career, because how are you ever going to get hired somewhere else if the reason why you got fired from this huge show is because you purposely leaked dailies that ended up on Twitter to teenage fans to like get attention from them, or for whatever reason that you did that. And those fans didn't think about that at all. I don't think any of them are thinking about that as they're
Well,
like sharing it.
yeah, and a caution to fans too in this age of AI.
Yeah.
They need to be careful, because as like these leaks, and now of course the Doomsday, the Marvel leaks as well, have proved that there's an appetite for this type of stuff. So I already see this now. Like when a new project gets announced, because I follow a lot of movies, I will immediately see TikToks pop up with fake fan made trailers. But like in the past, fan made trailers were very clearly labeled as such. If you go on YouTube, people like say fan made in the parentheses of the title of the video, and they would want to get credit for like, I made this, but it's not, it's not the actual thing. And now I see more and more, none of those fan made tags are on these things. They'll present it as real. I saw when Sinners like had only been out for like maybe a week or two, and I saw someone making fake AI generated posters for sequel spin-off movies, and he in his comments was presenting them as if they were real, where people were like, this isn't real. Ryan Coogler said he's not making any other movies in this world, and the guy's like, these are real. And it's to drum up, hits and stuff. People who aren't part of the fandom. And that's kind of the warning I wanted to make, was that there are bad actors that are going to try to hook fans into doing and distributing this stuff and perpetuating that it's real. And TikTok is like a real, easy way to kind of get that, where it's happening so fast that the minute you repost it, it could be seen by 95% of the people who follow you. And before you even check to see if it actually is right or not. And then, are people going to believe you? It's dangerous. And stuff like this used to happen in different ways in fandoms. Most of the stuff that I encountered was script leaks, like back in the more analog days of the internet, fake scripts for episodes or for sequels. And oh man, shippers always there. We were like always the easy prey for someone leaking a faked script of a couple.
Part of it is driven by a big ship within the Percy Jackson fandom, which is the Percy and Annabeth, or Percabeth ship, and people trying to find, like little tidbits here and there of, oh, they're introducing Annabeth has a crush on Percy earlier, or, like there's tension in this scene.
Becky Riordan is like, has this position where she is online to try to like explain how things work to the fandom at large, and to also try to like handle when things like this happen. Like people were coming to her as soon as those scenes happened, like came online, to tell her about it. When like the script leaks happened the week before, people were telling her about it so that they know what's going on. There's like communication happening between the fans and like the people who are actually making this stuff. So they're not, it used to take a long time before sometimes productions would even know that something was going on. But she tries to like make that communication more open than it could be if they were more like hands off, like a lot of fandoms tend to be. And she's not on Twitter anymore, like a lot of people aren't. But this kind of thing is kind of why, because the fans on Twitter are very hard on her. in a way that nobody else is. And so it's
Yeah,
just on
people
that
were
app.
posting like, Rick, turn off your Wi-Fi while she was basically getting mad at people. Um, like it got misogynistic after a point. It's just like, shut up, Becky. Rick needs to turn off the Wi-Fi at
It's
home.
it's misogynistic to start that
Yes.
that they're mad at her for the things that they're mad at her about. She's literally just telling them how television works, and they're
Yes.
taking it out on her. And it's like she doesn't have to be here telling you these things. She could just not mention any of this stuff until they do interviews for press like most people do. But she's trying to do this in this way so that you will understand what's happening. And you're punishing her for it. And especially on Twitter right now, since she's not on there anymore, I feel like the people that are on there feel like they can do whatever they want. And I think that they got into like this sort of, I don't know, echo chamber is the right word, but just, I feel like they legitimately thought that they could post dailies from the new season and that nobody would notice besides them. They like almost like seem to like forget that this is like an open internet source that anyone can see. Because one of them called me a narc. Like one of them made an account on Threads, saw me responding to Becky and called me a narc for like as in like telling on somebody, like telling like the police on someone, for talking about these things. And I just like looked at that comment and I was just like, do you think that you could just post something like that and nobody would say anything or nobody would notice? And it's just kind of like that kind of thing happened on there. And the thing that's really accelerated it in a way that always seems to happen in fandoms is chaotic things always happen. Every time there's like a spoiler source that like talks up kind of like the antagonistic idea between I'm telling you what's really going on in this production, like won't tell you sort of thing as a way to like get attention, clout, attention, like clicks, views, money, whatever, in a way instead of like trying to work with the production, really just really out of control, like toxic things like this situation happened. And so basically, there's this one account, it's called just like Updates Percy, and I used to look at that account, but ever since like season 2 started filming, they started working with this other website called Nexus Point News that is trying to become like a spoiler source. Like this Nexus Point News site sometime last summer got everybody into a frenzy in the Marvel fandom, making them think that they were going to post a trailer for whatever, I don't even know what movie it was coming out at that time. That was like the next big Marvel movie, but they made everybody think that they're going to come out with a trailer someday, and then nothing ever happened. And so they're trying to become a spoiler source. And the way that they're doing it with Percy Jackson fandom stuff is they basically know the websites that you would know if you know anything about the industry to find like casting calls, like when they're going to be filming, when the
Yep.
studio is being like done. Like I said this to Mandy a couple weeks ago. You can find that stuff if you really know how to find it, which is why one of the fans found the casting calls for Nico and posted them all over Twitter, because it's not hard to find it. It's like basically free information. But because most people don't know how to find those things anymore because they don't have to, that site basically that is all they post are casting calls and when they're going to be filming every year, and then they like retweet people when they're filming outside when they're actually filming the seasons. That is the only information they have. They've never had like exclusive, information. They only knew that they added a brand new character that doesn't exist in the books for season 2. The only reason they knew that though was because they saw a casting call for her. It's not because they have like an actual in with like the studio or anything like that, or have people telling them things from the set. And like how that can happen sometimes is just from knowing how to sign into these literally they have a login on some websites, and that's where they get all their information from.
Yeah, it's just like any other like gossip sites too, of like they're working off of very little information. And again, like at the end of the day, it's the attention economy, and that's fans have to be careful, is that our attention is valuable. It equals money, and that's why sites like that are trying to become, they can't be reputable, entertainment news sites. So they just, they thrive on rumors and, speculation and little bits of information like casting calls and stuff. Because even when like a lot of places have gotten, or studios have gotten really savvy, and they won't even put the names of the characters on the stuff. And that's what I think is going to be concerning. The fact that like the fandom, Percy Jackson fandom, has such like a straightforward connection through Becky to the behind the scenes, is really precious. Is very rare anymore. And I feel like I don't know enough, obviously, since I'm not in the fandom, but so much of what I'm seeing happen is like very common when material is being adapted for a wider audience like this. So like when you have a book series that is getting a TV or a movie adaptation, and you get fans who may not have been active in the book fandom, or weren't until since they were little kids or whatnot, and so they're really coming in new into the TV show or the movie fandom, and all of their interactions with the fandom is on that one social media site, and that really kind of sets the tone for how they behave as fans. So it is really unsurprising that the Twitter fans are the way they are, but that's the tone that platform sets for behavior overall.
Yeah, and
I mean, Threads, I know, is a little bit better, but not too much.
Yeah.
it's just better for the Percy Jackson fandom because Becky is on there. That's
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
literally why, is because Becky is on there and people generally respect her a lot.
And also to give you some context with season 2, Jean. So season 2 started filming last summer. We've gotten one teaser trailer and like a couple seconds in a Disney Plus trailer that had other shows in it. And recently they released the official poster. But like we haven't gotten a lot of actual, this is what it's going to look like yet. And so this is part of why these people are feeling entitled with this leak of like, well, you haven't given us anything for months. So
It comes out in December.
Yeah.
Like, that's why
Right.
they have, oh my God. But I need to like continue with this whole thing with Twitter because there's always like a hierarchy in fandom, especially within like the actual fans that are within the fandom, where there's always like people in the fandom that are just like known people. And so on Twitter, that Updates Percy account is like the top of the general totem pole right now because they are the ones giving people these casting call informations that they just like never looked for before. But
The
that
big
only
name fan.
yeah, and so that only lasts for so long though because the only thing you have to offer people is that they don't look for these casting calls themselves. Somebody did now. Somebody did find the casting call for Nico and posted it. And so that showed people like, yeah, we don't have to like depend on this spoiler source, right? If I want to be like the top person, if I want everybody coming to me, if I want everyone idolizing me or like liking me the most or having the most followers or whatever, if I want to have that, then like why not do this? And the person who runs like the Updates Percy account has been openly antagonistic with Becky. Like a couple weeks ago when they posted, Becky tried to downplay that they were casting people for the new season. And I said this like last week, I was like, what are they supposed to do? Like you're putting a lot of pressure on literal children that are going to be cast in these roles. Of course she's going to lie and say that it's not happening, even if it is, because they're trying to do their job and you're putting a lot of pressure on actual children, child actors that don't need that. Like, they're supposed to be able to go through the casting process before that sort of pressure starts instead of like beforehand because you just want to use that information for clout. And so she said things like, oh, they just don't want you to know until they make an announcement. I'm like, they just want to be able to do their job. They want to be able to protect these actors and talk to them before they get opened up to the general public. But she's putting it very much in a way of like, I'm telling you this information that they don't want you to know. I found like posts of hers today saying like, I don't have to pretend like I'm professional because I'm not the like official account. And I'm like, Becky Riordan's Threads account isn't an official account either. It says on the top of it, these are my opinions. This is not like an official like announcement page unless I say that it is. And like she has that on there because she's just posting on there to try to be herself.
Yeah, but you know that the Percy leaks, that whole line of, well, I'm not a professional. So
You're pretending to be a journalist.
there's social responsibility in those situations. That's one of the things that I don't think a lot of people understand about social media, especially young people who are on here, because it is so accessible and there's no test or like license, like user manual that you're given before you get on here, is understanding that like when you say things that impact a great deal of people, regardless about, whether it's about you, about somebody, or if it's about media, like there's responsibility in being the person to say that stuff. And especially when you take on, like, this is a thing, like, it like, I hate to be the old timer going like back in my day, but there was like a sense of responsibility when you created fan sites and fan communities. And that is the sadness I feel for like, for newer fans who are coming into fandom now through social media like this, is that the reason these conversations about leaks and stuff are happening on social media is they don't have a centralized space to go to talk with other Percy Jackson fans away from this giant stadium of strangers all talking at one time. That combination of somebody who is really a social media influencer masquerading as a fan account, because they definitely don't, like, they may think they're a fan, and they are a fan. I don't know, to true Scotsman fallacy, but in the sense of that their primary motivation is building social capital amongst fans to keep them coming back to their account, to keep their position in the fandom as the primary authority on the fandom and on the show and what's getting, that's why they use that tactic, which you see all the time grifters on the internet use, of like, this is what they don't want you to know, the truth about spray cheese, like, it's like, okay, right? Like,
well, that's why, like, it's so obvious to me. Like, I'm like, yeah, this account is like making Becky the villain, doesn't care how that's affecting her personally, or the chaos that it's starting. And so because she's like making them the villain in the way like, oh, they're not posting anything that we want to see, so like I don't care that that this is like mean to them because they're like holding these things back from us when they should be, and if they would just post this stuff, we wouldn't be doing these things. And so because she did that, like they posted the casting call for Nico all over the internet, and now they're posting like the dailies that person had probably all this time. They posted them online because it's like, what other way to like kind of not only show like defiance towards the production, but also try to like show like one up the person that is getting all of like the attention so far on that app, than posting something like that. That immediate, like, who cares about casting calls when you're posting unfinished scenes that they have filmed that nobody else has seen besides people who are actually working on set? And that's like the exact sort of thing that happens. And then they turn around and they blame Becky for it. They say that it's your fault. And like, just to like make the point, like I have to make this point because it's just like how fandom can be like this is something that Becky posted on April 27th. This is what I mean by she tries to communicate very much with the fandom. She tries to make everybody know what is going on. She makes people know what is important to her, even within like the general world, like politically. Like she was posting today about how that Fortnite game used an AI voice of Darth Vader, and was saying like, you should pay attention to this because voice actors deserve to not have their jobs taken away by a robot. And so even with things like that, she like tries to direct people's attention to things that she thinks matter. And so On April 27th, somebody asked, like, they said, like, I wish we could get more content because they haven't put anything out, like, seriously yet about season 2 because it doesn't come out for another 7 months. But either way, she said, like, Percy Jackson is a priority for Disney, but I agree that the quiet space between the last season and this next one is way too quiet. It isn't unexpected, though, as this is just how marketing campaigns work. What we had for season 1 was unusual because there was a special fandom moment on Twitter I will not be able to replicate. Good news is that content will pick up as Disney celebrates 20 years of Percy Jackson this summer, which is the end of June is when The Lightning Thief came out 20 years ago. Along with whatever we get at Comic-Con San Diego, which is the month after that. And so she literally posted telling people, like, hey, I know that nothing's coming out right now and I don't like it either, but just wait another, like, month and a half and a lot of news is going to come out and there's going to be a lot of things happening. You just have to, like, wait a little bit longer. That was April 27th, and now it's, like, 2.5 weeks later, and they're posting dailies and acting like she is the one personally holding these things back from them. When it, like, they are basically pretending like Disney does not exist, and that Becky Riordan herself is the one that is telling them not to post these things, and are attacking her as if she is making those decisions when she literally told you that she is not. She told you that she doesn't like it either. She told you that. You all screenshot everything she says. The conversation that we had was posted all over Twitter yesterday.
Yeah,
it was
the
me and
conversation
her.
about the leaks.
And
People were getting mad because, like, so the conversation that Becky and Shannon were having back and forth was like, I get that we're all having a hard time, but this isn't the way to cope, people. And, you know, they were kind of joking about, like, haha, therapy works. And the fandom was like, Becky's telling us to get therapy?
like, the conversation we had was like what I just said. She basically was posting about the post that she made that she now deleted was her just talking about how that this could, like, have, like, long-reaching consequences that these people don't understand. And I basically said, like, this is why having, like, an antagonistic spoiler source is always really damaging for a fandom, because things like this happen. And she basically said, like, I'm trying not, these are, like, the only posts that she didn't delete were the ones that we had back and forth that are still there. And she said, like, I'm trying not to be political right now, but this is, like, something that people do. Like, Percy Jackson is important to a lot of people, so this is, I think, is something that they're doing as a way to, like, cope with, like, what's going on in the world right now, that everything is so uncertain, that they're, like, clinging on to this, like, ownership they have over something that made them feel good. And I said, like, and she said, like, you know, please, like, we can, she mentioned something about, like, having grace for them. And I said, like, oh, I can definitely have grace for them. I'm sorry if I'm coming off, like, really harsh, but this is the only way I know how to, like, say this kind of thing. And I basically said, like, if your coping mechanism is going to cost somebody their job, find a different one. Like, find a better one. And she said, like, yeah, that's, she said, like, maladaptive coping mechanisms can be harmful, even if it seems like they're helpful at the time when you don't realize it. That's why therapy can be so helpful. And I said in the post, like, yeah, I've been in therapy for 7 years. I've learned a lot of different coping mechanisms. Like, we are having a conversation. That is Becky Riordan having a conversation with me for God knows what reason she wants to talk to me, but she is. That's me and her having a conversation. But when we're having that conversation, I'm also aware that, like, everyone is watching me and watching her, and she knows that everyone is watching her and everything she says. And so, like, we're trying to have a conversation where we're actually just talking to each other, knowing that people are going to misunderstand and misrepresent every single thing we said, which is, how do you watch that conversation and the thing you get out of it is thinking that Becky is telling you all to go to therapy?
Misogyny.
Yeah, misogyny.
Misogyny. Ezra is in this very vulnerable spot where she is, like, right there when it comes to being at the source of the creative team, but isn't, like, wholly in control of all of it. Mm-hmm. And she's a woman. Mm-hmm. And they have the ability to have their own, like, mental idea that like somehow, you know, that she's like the devil that's, doing, they can make her responsible for all of the bad things and make Rick responsible for all the things that they like.
Yes.
Right. And that she becomes like a really appealing target for that type of misogyny that we see happen in a lot of large fandoms that impact people who are actually working on the property. And I'm specifically thinking of like things that like happen in like the Star Wars fandom and stuff where somebody like that is an appealing target.
Like, imagine working with Disney. You and your husband are working on this thing that I always try to make this point with them. This is literally their entire life. Like, this is their entire like soul on display for everyone to see and judge. Like, we've talked about how Becky watched our YouTube videos before, which is still like shocking that happened. And she said what she did to me after that, like, what the hell. But like, when she said that, that's what she said. As she watched our video, we were talking about how these characters are showing things that happen to people in real life, and her response to that was like, yeah, the writers don't understand this. They don't understand that when they're asking us about these characters, they're asking us about like our biggest like traumas and triggers and like our insecurities about ourselves. And she said like therapy in the writers' room is super weird. And they don't understand that's what they're asking. And I know that I can, obviously, because of my life experience, I understand things, I get it, things more than other people do, because this is something that happens to me a lot, that I say something that I think is very obvious and people are like, oh, I never thought of that before. And I'm like, why? But like, generally, I don't know why people don't think about that when it comes to them. Like, I don't know why the writers wouldn't think about that. And I'm like, this is like her and Rick's entire life. They're putting it out there in this story using Greek mythology to tell the stories of the things that they've been through in their life, to try to help other people that have been through similar things. It's very obvious. That's why I like these books so much.
Well,
because they're doing that. And so it's like, how do you forget about that?
Well, I think for a lot of people, first off, I want to say that like the work that you guys do, I think is really important to bridge that gap for people who it didn't occur to them, because, like some people come to the stories and they really are just taking them at face value, where they're just, kids that, have magical powers and happen to be related to Greek gods and stuff. And they're not thinking about the deeper themes, which I think is really, this is the actual fandom stuff that I think is important, and part of like what I think fights against that toxic behavior is, giving fans a place to like hear people talk about the deeper themes in the story and what the characters are going through and the impacts and stuff, because to me, that's what fandom is. That's the work fandom does in between seasons, in between book releases, is revisiting the material, talking about the things that we love about the characters or the show, or the things that we didn't like and that we would have done differently, or how we would like to see it done. Like, that's what's supposed to be filling these spaces that are being crowded out by, leaks and casting rumors and stuff. For a lot of people, it's uncomfortable to look too closely.
Part of why I get upset about how people treat Becky is that I'm like, this is literally the same shit that people say to me. And it's a different person, but it's the same shit. It's always like, for whatever reason, it's, if you're like a female presenting person and you talk like more bluntly and you just kind of like tell it like it is, and you're not like overly feminine, like Becky isn't either. She's talked about how she's been like misgendered before, where people thought that she was a man. People thought that I was a man, like when I was younger, would like think that I was a guy or something. In the same sort of way, people like that, they just, especially in like fandom whatever spaces, but really like online spaces at all, they will rip you apart if you say something that they don't like at all and blame you for everything if you don't like perform femininity for them. If you like know what you're talking about, if you're smart, if you just say what you want to say, and you're not feminine in the way that you're not like trying to look like any sort of way, she just is who she is in the same way that I am. They hate that. There's something about that they just hate, and they will blame you for absolutely everything. Like, the thing that is scary about when a fandom like stands or standifies somebody by like dehumanizing them in the way that they like worship them is that sort of like intensity that is like going positively can also turn against you, and it can become like a super negative thing where they then take all the things that they used to do about you to like you as a person, and instead they use it to hate you. And
Yep.
they have like zero boundaries. And I'm like, this is literally what is going on with Becky and these people on Twitter, especially. They feel like because she's not giving them exactly what they want the moment that they want it, that everything they ever thought nicely about her, they're turning it on her head and just attacking her for nothing. Like, she hasn't actually done anything, but they feel like she has. It doesn't matter that what they're saying doesn't make sense. Like, saying like it's the production's fault that we, the fans, decided to post these things on social media. It's like, you posted that. Like, you chose to post that here instead of on like Discord or something. That's definitely, at least bare minimum, your responsibility for choosing to post this in this way. Even if somebody gave you access to it, you're not like helpless. It didn't like just trip and fall and end up on Twitter. Like, you chose to do that. And so blaming her for their actions because I was helpless in doing this because you won't give me what you want, even though she is 2 weeks ago told them that I don't like this either, but this is just how Disney does marketing. It just shows that it never actually matters who you are and what you're actually saying. Like, the way like the Epic Musical people talk to me is like, it doesn't matter who I actually am.
Right.
And what I'm actually saying. No matter what I say and what I do, they will find a way for me to turn to be a bad person